Hello, everybody. I suggest we start the magic. Today is a very special day. We have topics around the Elastic environment, ecosystem, and we have, as always so far, top-notch speakers. We have Gilles from Inbot, and we have Christopher from the heart of this technology from Elastic. He's from the Elastic team. I'm very happy to have them here, and I'm also very happy and positively surprised about the audience today. We have like the whole room is full, and as I already mentioned, don't take it bad, but I'm really happy to see a lot of female attendance. I'm really proud that this meetup has a lot of female percentage. Yeah, the first talk will be about ELK in general, about setting the ELK stack. It will be a live coding session, and yeah, I think Gilles will introduce himself, but I will say he's very very experienced with ELK, and I'm sure he can show us very cool tricks today, or at least some things you should watch out when you set up ELK. Then Christoph, if this is not enough, this will already blow this room, but watch out, there is more. We will get a forecast, or let's say a look into the future of what is cooking in the Elasticsearch kitchen. And I know there are like very cool topics like these, and Christopher will cover them all. Like will show us what is in the pipeline. And last but not least, there is a huge surprise talk. I don't know if you had already the chance to register at this table there, but today there is a chance to win a Raspberry Pi. And yeah, sponsored by Advertime Mobile, a very nice company, I have to say, with really nice people. And yeah, they decided to sponsor Raspberry Pi, but it's not like just sponsoring, but they were just very happy about the result, which they could achieve with Raspberry. So basically, I will give a little bit preview on what is coming. They put screens on the wall, and those screens show the Kibana dashboards. So it's not only that you can see the dashboards on your laptop. It's also like this whole configuration. Like we say, the ELK stack setup. Then we will show what comes in the future, and then we will show a very nice use case. Which is based on Raspberry, and at the end there is some lottery. I shouldn't use this word, but it's rather a giveaway. And yeah, if you haven't yet, please visit this gentleman, Joao, in person, and he will sign you up. And at the end, we will ask somebody from the audience to pick one number, or there will be a random generator. Let's see what's easier. And yeah, somebody of you will take it home today. So one more time, thank you very much for coming and for making this possible. This time I was like really happy that we had a vibrant discussion on the Meetup platform on Twitter. I saw many retweets and likes, so I'm very happy about it, and I would like to thank you guys, because without you it wouldn't be possible. And yeah, let's keep this spirit share it everywhere with everyone you know, and let's make this community huge. Like we will be, or we even are. How what like I can see today we are the biggest cloud community in Berlin, and we will make it worldwide. Thank you very much.
I guess this microphone is working. So welcome everybody. Maybe before I start, maybe a quick round. So who is actually using Kibana at this point? So quite a few minutes. So pretty much for those who are not, I'm going to mostly be talking about Kibana and what we do with it. So the history of this talk is that I actually gave a similar talk about 2.5 years ago, where Michal actually watched me. Last week I got out of the email like, hey, you did this great presentation like ages ago, would you want to give it again? Like, all right, let's do that. So the flip side is we've been using Kibana and related stuff for all this time. Our setup is reasonably up to date, not entirely. So what I'm decided to do is that since last time I sort of outlined, okay, this is how you set it up, this is how you get going, and dashboards. That's exciting. This time I want to sort of do it the other way around and start with sort of what are you going to get out of this. So who am I? So I've been in Berlin for about a bit over 7 years now. I got here via a complex route of Finland and originally from the Netherlands. And yeah, I've been doing Java pretty much since it was invented. Did also a PhD in the domain, and pretty much have been in the software industry for the past 15 years, roughly. Currently I work for a company called Inbot, so we're a Berlin-based startup, although since about half a year we're actually a distributed company with people in 5 different countries. So we have a couple of people here in Berlin, we have people in Belarus, Poland, Finland, Denmark, and Belgium. So what we do is we build a app for salespeople to discover new customers to talk to via other salespeople that they know. So what we do is essentially sort of a mined social graph from people's contact books based on communication patterns, so things like email, SMS. So I'm not going to talk a lot about what we do, but the gist of this is that we have a lot of data ingestion infrastructure, which produces a lot of logs, which we actually handle in Kibana. So this screenshot on the right pretty much shows off one of our key features. So they're searching for VP, it searches through your contacts, but also through what we call network contacts. So it's essentially other people that you know, and we know how well you are connected by the fact that you've been exchanging emails or making phone calls. So that's what we do. So we have an Android and iOS app. So what is ELK? It's simply a nice acronym for Elasticsearch, Logstash and Kibana. Pretty much I've been using search technology and Lucene and Solar before I started using Elasticsearch for pretty much since 2003, I think, yeah. Which is one of the first times I encountered Lucene in the wild. So these days Elasticsearch is like a big company. At the time I started, it was sort of an open source project that at some point got funded and then became big, and it happened in the last 3-4 years, I'd say. Sort of the context of this talk, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry, so there's a lot of movement on type databases. If you've been to any of the buzzwords conferences or any other similar conference, there will have been a lot of products like InfluxDB, Cassandra, basically all about the same thing, time series data, so anything with a timestamp, store it and do it at scale. So there's a lot of movement on that. The other trend is sort of, in the old days it was pretty much your system administrator that would be looking at graphs, and that was the whole problem space. These days it's a bit bigger, so So it might be like marketing people interested, developers like myself, system administrators obviously. There's all sorts of people looking at stuff. Then databases themselves have gotten a lot smarter. So back in the day, you had specialized solutions from like Oracle. Column databases like Hadoop have been around for 10, 15 years. Lately, there's a lot of movement on this front. So Elasticsearch is a good example since it does both aggregations and search, which are sort of critical here. Then the other trend is the whole serverless, Docker, Amazon Lambda, whatever trend, which is a lot more moving parts, a lot more transient stuff. So what happens to the data inside these things? So we have more logs than ever. So then logging, actually it's kind of a bit of a boring topic for a lot of developers. One of those things that you do, so you put S or log.info, and basically that happens in a lot of places, on a lot of servers. If you do it smartly, you get a lot of types of data out of that, and what the hell is happening? That's usually the question, right? So something broke. Okay, which little bit in our infrastructure is responsible, and how do I find out? So that's the key problem we're trying to solve. So you can go do that the old school way. I've actually done this about 50 years ago. That was sort of the way to do it. So you would get access to the server, SSH into it, and then you'd be piping the output of cuts together, and then on the fly doing a bit of grabbing and whatever, and then hopefully you'd get your answer. That stopped working a long time ago. Then the Hadoop ecosystem was actually sort of designed to make sense of this. So you have lots of data, then you write your Hadoop programs, and out comes nice reports and analysis. But actually requires also a lot of planning, infrastructure, and knowledge. So this stuff is not that easy to work with. And actually kind of expensive to work with. And you sort of need to know in advance what you're going to need. I'm not a data scientist. There's a lot of those around these days, but really logging is not their key focus. Then there's the whole monitoring ecosystem, which is great. I mean, you should do monitoring if you run any kind of servers. But it's mostly about the low-level stuff, right? So what is the load on this machine? How much IO am I doing? Am I running out of memory? Those kind of things are typically the kind of things we look at when we're monitoring. Kibana can actually do that, but it's not necessarily what you want to do it for. So this is where we brought in ELK. So I think my first encounter with it would have been 2013. At the time, pretty much there was like, okay, download latest Elasticsearch, set it up, get some data into it via Logstash, and then deploy the bit of JavaScript that is essentially Kibana somewhere. So we ran it in Nginx at the time. Then, pretty much, how do you get data into this thing? Well, that means logging. So actually, if you look at the logging ecosystem, it's a mess. Java alone has like 4 or 5 mainstream frameworks and probably a lot smaller ones. That's actually one of the better ecosystems for logging. If you look at places like Ruby, it can be quite messy. So the key thing there is finding a balance between logging and enough, but not too much. So pretty much what happens if you do too much? Well, in our case, we ended up with a dying cluster at some point because we had debug logging turned on. That wasn't nice. And even if you get that under control, it's kind of costly. So what happens if you don't do enough? Well, that basically means that something happens and you have no way of figuring out what it was, which is also expensive because you'll probably spend a lot of time debugging. So these days, I'd argue you need to be biased to sort of logging opportunistically. So if you can, probably you should, unless you have a good reason not to. So this is an example of how the ELK stack sort of logs. So this is think a syslog entry that I grabbed from our logs today. Essentially, what log entries in ELK are generic JSON documents that need to have a timestamp. I think it's actually optional in the latest Kibana, but it's kind of useful if they do, so you can sort them over time. The nice thing is the more fields, the better, because then you have metadata to search on. So in this case, the syslog entry sort of comes with things like a priority, the log source, as in the Amazon host in this case, which program was responsible, so you can sort of start slicing and dicing these things. So in general, so you have the problem of, okay, you have like your infrastructure, so in our case we have about 40 servers in Amazon doing all sorts of crazy things. So we have Docker, Node.js, Java stuff, a bunch of off-the-shelf things, like a Docker registry. All of that sort of logs into Logstash by one way or another. So there's a lot of components that can help you do that. So Logstash is the obvious one. Elastic also has beats. I'm guessing we might be talking about it later, but so I'm not going to. So we're not actually a user yet, but we've been looking at it. And sort of my favorite is actually if you can just log JSON natively, it just saves a lot of hassle. So that's one of the things we did. I'm going to show you some of that later. Yeah. In general, Logstash is a server that listens on UDP port, so if you in any way can send stuff to that port, it will end up in the right place. So our technical setups of around 40 machines. There's a number that goes up and down a bit, so what we do is when we have development environments, we create a branch, fire up the thing, and then we have a few more machines, and then they automatically start logging into Logstash. So all our environments essentially log into the same Logstash cluster. So that saves a bit of on overhead and gives us essentially less moving parts on the logging side. Also means it's kind of a critical thing in our infrastructure. So if that thing goes down, you're essentially blind, right? So yes, that costs a bit. So we currently run it on 3 C4 large machines, which I'm not exactly sure how much that costs per month, but I bet it's in a couple of hundreds a month. Now we're slightly out of date, so the latest Elastic would be 2.3 something. I think Kibana's on 4.5. Not sure how much Logstash moved in the time frame, but there's a few releases. So this has been running in our infrastructure since about April, I'd say, March, April timeframe. Yeah, we have about 14 million log events every day, so it's pretty stable. So basically, that's just our infrastructure being chatty. So most of that is noise, but we would like to keep that anyway. So instead of showing you a lot of slides about how and what, it's much more fun to just show you the actual thing. So pretty much this is the Kibana home page. So we have a custom dashboard that actually lists all the dashboards that we care about. So that's something that changed in Kibana 4 from 3 to 3. This was sort of the default. So basically have this on the front page. These days you sort of learned to a let's get started kind of page. So that's actually kind of useful to create a page. And the other thing you see at the bottom here is sort of the raw incoming log messages with a breakdown. So what happens here, for example, is each log message has a type indicating where it came from. So there's a bunch of things that we have here. So Gelf is the biggest one, so that comes from the Docker Gelf driver. So Gelf is a log format associated with Graylog originally, which is a competing product with Elasticsearch and Kibana. So Graylog is actually, I think, developed in Germany even, Hamburg. Pretty much reason for this is that all the Docker containers in the infrastructure basically just dump all their outputs straight to the ELK driver, which dumps it straight into Logstash. So that's mostly easier. Then the second bigger is something called the scheduler that is actually our data ingestion backend, which produces a lot of data about, hey, I just faxed this email account for this user, this is what happened, and all those things. Then the Inbot API, that's my little baby, so I'm mostly doing Java development when I'm not solving DevOps headaches, which is sort of why a few slides back I called myself a reluctant DevOps person. So it's not a hobby, but since we're a startup, it's actually somebody has to do that, and that's usually me or one of the other guys. And syslog is kind of the low-level stuff that is sort of happening on the almost. So pretty much, so syslog is one of those things that people don't really look at, where actually sometimes interesting things happen. So just open that in a separate tab. So actually did this a few days ago, created a breakdown of our syslog events. So this is what's happening over time. We had a few spikes today because deployments. So this is currently set to the last 7 days. So you always set a time range so you can zoom in to say the last 15 minutes. You see that there's pretty much a steady stream of stuff coming in. So the time scale is 30 seconds. I'm not sure if that's readable for everybody. And then below there we have sort of a complicated pie diagram which essentially breaks this thing down. So I'm just going to show you how this thing works by looking at this thing. A separate tab. Before I do that, I just show you the raw events. So this is a table with the raw events. So each line in here represents an incoming JSON document. So here you sort of see the same JSON structure that I showed you in the slide. So I'm going to come back to that later. First look at the pie diagram. So pretty much, so what we did here is basically broken down in 3 ways. So and the easiest way to show you that is just to do that from scratch again. So basically, the first layer is hosts. The second layer is the program, and the last layer is the severity label. So let's just create a new one. And in this case, we're doing a pie chart, so that's great. We have a saved search. The way Kibana works is you have the Discover tab, the Visualize tab, and the Dashboard tab. So the dashboard is sort of the user-facing thing, and the other two are more for clicking together stuff. So Discover is about creating queries. So in this case, maybe we should start there with the ELK query. So now it's actually searching everything in the last 15 minutes. So usually what you do is, okay, let's look at, so there's a lot of fields, and I'm going to explain where these came from. What just happened? So one of the annoying things in the current version of Kibana is that this left column doesn't have a search field. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So here is the type field which I was looking for. So first let's click the add button. What that means is you just changed, so now we have a timestamp column and a type button, which is nice. If you click this one, you can actually sort of see what are like the top things you can do with this. So in this case, we're interested in ELK, so I'm going to click the plus button here to just narrow this thing down by the ELK type. Then pretty much next you would look at the host name. So let's add that one as well. So these are the Amazon hosts that we have, which are kind of anymore. So each message has a host, and then the last thing we were looking at was the severity level, which is because I'm not paying attention to picture one type here, I should pick the syslog. Which was the there we go. So now it's broken down by syslog, and then for syslog we check the severity level. So this you could actually save, so I already have one that I did earlier, so I'm not going to do that, but that's essentially how search works. So all this does is click together a query with a bunch of constraints. So you have like your list of terms, so you could say that, okay, I'm only interested in log entries that have this particular host. Click the plus button. And you have two basically end queries, and you can also negate these things by clicking the minus button, which basically means anything about this host. Click delete here, and go back to the visualize tab. So pretty much we already pre-selected the syslog here. So on the y-axis we were sort of doing the count, and on the x-axis we actually don't have anything yet. So I'm gonna pick the terms aggregation. Let's see. So pick the type here. That's not that interesting. Let's pick the we say host. One of the other annoying things is that this is sort of sorted alphabetically and done by type. So somewhere in here is a host.raw. So this .raw kind of thing is basically related to the Elasticsearch mapping. Come on. I'm not going to do that and waste your time with that. Much more fun to look at this. So here, pretty much, we already did that. So this is the one I pre-created. So the way these things look here, so here you can see that the host of all is the first level, so that's this one. So basically, you see them lighting up at the side here. In the same way that you could narrow them down in the query, you could also do it here, simply by clicking on, say, this one. And now the whole thing just zooms into that. If you don't like that, you can do that. So this is how you basically slice and dice logs with just clicking on things. Then there's the second level, which breaks the first level down by program.raw, so that's the inner circle here. So each these things has a bunch of programs. And then there's the bottom layer, which is more the same. So there's loads more aggregations in Kibana that you can use. So you can do maps. There are things like what do you call them? These bar diagrams, histograms. You can do metric lines. There are in the common version of Kibana loads of Kibana plugins that do things like moving averages, those kind of things. We're actually not using most of that thing. That's not really what. So then, pretty much, so this is pretty much how you click together a diagram, and then in the end, what you do with that is you put it on a dashboard. Then the nice thing is you have several diagrams on the dashboard that all sort of respond to the same constraints you put here. So if I click again, say this thing to restrict the host, basically it puts it at the top here, it sort of narrows down all the diagrams. So this is like a great way to drill down in the raw messages. So usually what happens happens, something goes wrong. You're looking for a particular logger on a particular host, so you narrow down like that. Getting a lot of noise here from this thing, so let's exclude kernel events, and no events found. Maybe if we set it back to the last 7 days, there's actually some, yeah, there were some kernel events. So there's more interesting things you can do with Kibana. So one of the things that I want to talk about is actually metrics. Not the kind of metrics that you would normally get from CPU growth, but actually application metrics. So this is our metrics dashboard, and this is coming straight from our application server. So the way that works is actually kind of interesting. So in this case, I don't actually have the query results here because usually they're not that interesting to look at. I'm going to show you from the Discover pane what that thing looks like. There is the metrics, the API metrics. So let's just grab one. So as you can see from the timing here, they are. That's still querying, yeah. So this is going to be slightly slow because these JSON blobs are huge. Because we have a lot of metrics together. So what you see here, so I have again several columns. The log message is always metrics update with MVC info. Get back to whatever means later. So we have several environments that you can see here. So API, Inbot, is our main environment. We have a testing setup. Something called Johanna scheduler. So Johanna is one of the developers. She's doing currently a lot of development on revamping our scheduler logic. So if I open this guy, this is takes like a few seconds, but basically all these things are essentially metrics that we gather in our API server. Mostly they're numbers that are 0, 1, or in some cases a bit higher. But this gives us a lot of fine-grained data. So this gets logged every minute from all our API servers and just dumped into Logstash, which puts it into Elasticsearch, which makes it available for querying. So then pretty much at the top left here, there's the breakdown by hosts and environments. So in this case, we're looking at our production environment already. But I could just delete that. And then it updates, so we could actually look at our testing environment, and we can see what's going on in our testing environment. So here you see how nice this ELK setup is, right? So we have pretty much all these data, and pretty much this updates in like 2 seconds. Even though we're looking at, say, 7 days of data, so that's like thousands and thousands of entries. So kind of things we do here, so we have a bunch of JVM statistics, we have a few internal queues where I'm interested in measuring back pressure, so these spikes here basically mean things are piling up and then it's sort of recovered. So these spikes, if they get too high, I'm going to get worried, but not until it's like thousands and thousands. This zigzag here is sort of when we deploy, it sort of goes down and then it starts accumulating, and so that's a counter. We have things like active Redis connections. So we have Redis, so if a lot of Redis connections open, not getting close, that's probably an issue. It seems to hover between 0 and 2 years, so it's not very busy, which is good. So these kind of things are sort of a bit more high level than the typical things you would get in like a graphite setup. You could do this in graphite, but pretty much not what you get out of the box there. So now, quickly jumping back to the slides to show you how we actually do this. So, pretty much, we were at this slide, I think. Yeah. have showed you everything. So these are sort of the gotchas. I might get back to that later. So first, I want to talk about what we use here. So something called the mapped diagnostic context. So if you've dealt with Java logging frameworks, you might have encountered that. It's not very common in other languages, but it's insanely useful. So what is it? So you have something called the mapped diagnostic context, which is an object which where you just put attributes. So what happens, request comes into a server, the first thing we do is, okay, let's set the user ID, the user agent, a few other things, and basically that becomes the context for all the log messages that happen during the request. So at some point we have the business logic, hey, user did something, info. Basically all the information gets attached, and then it gets sent to the Logstash in the form of a JSON object with timestamp, the message, plus all those attributes. So that's nice. What we do for metrics is exactly this. So we have a gazillion metrics that we log once per minute. So what we do is we put all of those things in MDC and then send an info message, MDC update. The whole block gets sent to Elasticsearch, which you just saw, and you have all those metrics in Elasticsearch. Nice. We actually were so pleased with this that we actually did a Node.js version of this as well. So this is a sort of fork of log4j.s, which we never got around to properly getting shape for contributing back, but this was actually pretty easy to do. But that's essentially what we use on our scheduler dashboards. And actually wrote a little bit of Java that is on one of our open source projects where it makes it a bit easier, which uses private resources. So the thing with the MVC is you also need to remove what you put in it. This sort of automates that. So we put it here, and once this block exits, it removes everything that was put. This is how these application metrics work. So there's a framework out there from one of the app server stacks called Clock Wizard, which we're actually not using, but we're using this framework, which allows you to do things like this. So you have something like a metric registry where you register all your metrics. In this case, I actually was interested in how many least connections do I have in my HTTP client pool. So that's a gouge. So whenever this thing gets called, this is the logic that it calls. So basically access the total stats and get least. Pretty much that metric goes into the HTTP client least field in that MVC and ends up in the giant JSON blob. Kind of a nice way to do stuff. So that's basically telemetry for the application server. If you're not doing this, you probably should start thinking about how to do this because it's insanely valuable. So you can do anything like how many times are hitting this database table, how many connections do we have open right now, over time. So metrics framework has things like timers with moving averages, counters. It's insanely flexible and it's really easy to set up. Then Docker Delph drivers, I mentioned that, so this is also insanely easy to set up. So if you're running Docker on somewhere, all you need to do is say -log driver Delph, and then tell it where to dump its logs. In this case, this always talks to this particular port in our infrastructure. That's where Logstash is running. So all it does is basically dump messages into the JSON format. That's what the Delph driver takes care of. Fields like the host and sends it off to Logstash. I think I've maybe time for one more slide. So this is the sort of the gotchas stuff. This is like 3-4 years of learning. So we make all the mistakes you can make with Elasticsearch. These days it's actually a lot better. So if you're running Elasticsearch, it's a cluster. Means that if things go wrong, it stops being a cluster. That's called split brain, and that's something you want to avoid at all costs. And that requires a bit of trickery. So one of the main things to do is, hey, I'm doing upgrades, shut down all nodes 1 by 1, and then everything will be fine. No, it won't. if you're not waiting for each node to recover before you restart the next one, that basically means you basically take down one node, then it should be available, your cluster goes red, meaning it is now inconsistent, and at that point, good luck recovering. Your chances of recovering are a lot better these days, so at least it takes a lot of bugs around that, but essentially you want to just avoid doing that. So that means reading up on how to manage these things. So I mentioned turning on debug logging was fun, so we gathered like gigabytes of logs in under an hour. If you leave that running at some point, you run out of disk. At that point, things get ugly. So Elasticsearch has a thing called mapping, so by default it's doing something called dynamic mapping, which basically means, hey, this JSON field looks like integer, I'm going to do an integer field here. The thing is you can't change it afterwards, so if that integer field actually turned out to be sometimes a string field, which can happen, right? You have a problem. So these are the kind of things you need to think about, and Elasticsearch is also lots of things that you can use for querying. So something called tokenizing, which is what makes it a search server, which is mostly less interesting if you're doing Kibana because you want to actually look at whole string. So breaking a host name down by say spaces and dots and dashes, yeah, sometimes useful, but sometimes you just want to match on the whole thing. So there's a bunch of things there. At some point we were running an Amazon with one of the cheaper servers which had CPU credits. That was fine for weeks, months, and at some point we had a limit, the CPU credits were gone, which means that Amazon throttles you, which means our Elasticsearch cluster fell over. Don't do that. So if that happens, essentially it has not enough CPU to handle the incoming load, so we have around 10,000 documents per minute. So these start piling up. At that point, you forget it, your cluster is dead. I mentioned the rolling restarts. So one of the things that we did after an incident about half a year ago was just deploy something called Elastic Curator, which is a Python script that calls APIs in Elasticsearch to automatically do some maintenance. So you can do things like compacting, optimizing, deleting anything older than X, doing all of those things. Use it. So we have about a week of data in our cluster, which keeps things fast and predictable. Usually what happens in Elasticsearch is you get a new index every day, so it rolls over every day, which means in our case we have 6 of those with 5 shards each, bunch of replicas. Each shard takes up a bit of memory in the server. At some point you did like finals of them. That was the stop sign. So, any questions?
I have a question. You mentioned anything about the Logstash and Elasticsearch. How that will go to Michal? You never mentioned anything about a queue in between Logstash and Elasticsearch. So how do you ensure that even in the event of something glitching in the network anywhere, your logs will get queued and then you will re-deliver them again?
That's something we've had at some point. We had a Redis in between Logstash and the input. We actually stopped doing that. So mostly it's okay. So we're accepting the risk that if Logstash goes down, we lose a bit of data until we bring it back up again. What you could do is put something like Kinesis or Kafka in between. I think the upcoming Logstash version has also a lot of facilities for sort of increasing some guarantees about getting all your messages in. So if that matters to you, pay attention to that. So mostly, if we lose like a minute of syslog logs, nobody's going to cry about that. But yeah, if that matters, you can do that. So Logstash has essentially a lot of plugins, so it can basically listen for input on UDP, but it can also pick apart files. You can simply dump things to files and then read from that. You can hook it up to loads of different queues, so RabbitMQ, Kinesis, I think most of these things are supported out of the box. I didn't show the the configuration for Logstash, mostly because it's essentially very boring. It's like 100 lines of JSON, that's it. Like, this is your input, this is how you transform it, this is where it needs to go. And that's essentially the whole Logstash configuration. It's great. Does stuff. But it's a pretty lively ecosystem. So there's, I think, hundreds of plugins now. I've lost count. 200, yeah. Most of which do arcane shit you probably don't care about, and some of which do stuff you probably need. So things like, now there's all sorts of alternative Logstash shapers, some of which are not part of Elastic, which I'm sure he's going to talk about. So yeah, there's options.
Okay, so just for the record, we're using RabbitMQ and Gurp.
Yeah.
Also, I'm wondering about alerting. Do you have anything regarding alerting? So you showed us some spikes, so does anything like reacts on that, and then you get email whether action is being executed?
We don't have that. Elastic sells a solution for that. I've actually been thinking of hacking something myself. So essentially I'm pretty comfortable doing Elasticsearch queries because we also use it in our product stack. So essentially what you would do is some kind of aggregation query. I actually did one a few days ago for one of our health checks, which checks did we actually ingest anything in the last 6 hours, which is something I would like to know. That's no longer true, so that's a health check. So pretty much what Kibana does underneath is things like this. Another thing you could do is use that Elastic, I'm not even sure what it's called.
It's called Watcher.
Watcher, yeah. Pretty much writing a Nagios check that does a aggregation query that checks for a particular size. That's essentially what that check is, right? So it's not that hard. We've considered doing this, so there's a bunch of things we'd like to act on. Another thing the Elastic guys are doing is anomaly detection. I think there's a few Kibana plugins that sort of play with that, so which is kind of cool. Haven't had the time to play with it.
Okay, so we're using the last alert, just to let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, from ELK, it works quite a bit.
Yeah. So we have Sensu in our architecture for monitoring sort of the low-level stuff. It's one of those many neglected pieces that I just don't have time to fix, but that would be a good place to plug a few things in for me. Anybody else? Yeah.
Just one quick question. You mentioned that you set up Elasticsearch on a cluster yourself.
Yeah.
Is there any reason for not using the AWS Elasticsearch service?
Yeah, it's obviously out of date. So I think you get the 1.5 cluster. That was for us non-negotiable because our product actually, so we're still on 1.7 for our product and 2.x for Kibana. So with the 1.x, you're pretty much stuck on Kibana 3, I think. I don't think Kibana 4 even runs on this, and you definitely don't want to be running Kibana 3 at this point. So that was the presentation I did 2.5 years ago was Kibana 3. Kibana 4 is a completely rewrite of the UI and the way it works. So there's no there's other options. So Elastic has a hosted solution as well, which you could use, which I would recommend if you don't have like need to have a lot of moving parts that you want to manage. The reason we are running this ourselves is we essentially got a nice deal with Amazon where we got Amazon credits for running our hosting for quite some time, which we're currently using up, which means that hosting it yourself is sort of a no-brainer. But it's a bit of a pain in the ass, I must say. So Elasticsearch is a bit more difficult to manage than like a stateless Nginx thing or something like that.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I'm around for questions later if you want. So.
Round of applause.